Good morning, St. Francis. Good morning, people of God. It is Thursday, the 9th day of March 2023, Thursday of the second week of Lent. It is the 12th day of Lent. Coming to you this morning from the other side of our campus, now taking a look at our log cabin. The old log cabin, which was the residence of the people who owned the property that the, what is it, the northern side? Yes. The northern side, I think, of our campus our campus is on, where we built the chapel and everything else like that. There used to be an in-ground swimming pool right here. Unfortunately, they got rid of it. I think it was over here to build this parking area. I don't know why. An in-ground swimming pool would have been wonderful. But the family here, architects, built this log cabin and sold it to us here at St. Francis. And it is now just a log cabin. It did have some meeting use, but it has yet to be sort of repurposed in sort of the best way. The wonderful feature about the log cabin is the St. Francis Victory Garden, which is right behind us, right behind the log cabin, right over there. So a beautiful garden that contributes to the Raleigh Food Bank and to other resources for food. So again, as Franciscans, caring for the fruits of the earth, and things that is quite appropriate for us, and so we affirm that with the Francis Garden right here, our log cabin right over there. On this Thursday, on this 12th day of Lent, on the Thursday of the second week of Lent, Isaiah the prophet speaks to us and basically says, do not trust human beings, which is, again, an important thing. Again, if we just put our trust in ourselves, we will not amount to anything. We will not accomplish and achieve what needs to be done. It's the truth. It doesn't mean that we don't trust people, but if all we do is trust ourselves, if all we do is trust basically people who say they're going to lead us into glory and wonder and stability and things like that, we have to be wary, because they could not be telling us the truth also. And again, if we only trust in ourselves, then again, the interesting thing that Isaiah says, we're like a desert. It's like where nothing grows, because we can only do so much, and as finite and fallible beings, we cannot accomplish those great, wonderful things that sometimes we set out to do. The only one to put our trust in is God, because God is the one who has control. God is the one who created. God is the one who sustains. God is the one who leads us, through all the experiences that we have into something that is better. But again, we have to trust that God can do this. It's always interesting, in every scenario in which we are faced with the worst of situations, God seems to be absent. And that's because those people who create those worst of situations don't know what to make of God. And so they don't put God into the mix. And again, human beings are just living in darkness and sadness and vengeance and horror. And we find that entertaining, I guess, to a degree. But it really is, it's very sad in the end. Isaiah tells us, again, to remember our trust in God, to remember that God is the one who wants what is best for us, and who loves us without condition, without cost. And it will bring us, into the future that God has destined for us and that God wants us to have. Again, another very positive, wonderful reflection on Lent. Not about human brokenness and sinfulness, that God doesn't want anything to do with us, or that God wants to punish us because of all the terrible things that we do. It is a God who rescues, a God who leads us out of darkness into light, from death into life. In the gospel today from Luke, it is the great parable of the rich man and Lazarus. Again, Lazarus, a poor man who lived at the gate of a rich man who has no name, the gate of his house, and never given anything to eat. He dies, he goes to paradise, and the rich man goes to a place of torment. Is it hell? Is it not? Are we talking about hell yet? Again, the Jews of the first century, many of them did not believe in a hell or an afterlife of any sort. A few did, but again, hell as we understand it is, or we've been told to understand it, would not exist in Jesus' time. But it is a place of unpleasantness that this man, who had everything in this life, unfortunately ends up doing because of his neglect, of Lazarus. And again, there is this whole thing about not being able to cross from one side to the other, and the man is stuck where he is. And again, it gives a judgment of God, is basically saying, yep, no chances, you're done, I'd like to see you in torment. And we have to be careful with that. The point of the gospel is that the rich man all of a sudden begins to think about his brothers only, and trying to ward them off of the same fate that he has, and basically they want, the rich man wants Lazarus to go and talk to them as a spirit so they'll believe. And again, that kind of selfish preservation for this man's family only and not for anybody else. Again, the man is where he is because he didn't care about anybody else, is not going to work. And, Abraham says, they're not going to believe, if a person comes back from the dead, which is a slight, to the Pharisees and the scribes and those who think they have all the power and the control, that when Jesus even rises from the dead, they're going to try to dispute that and try to deny it and try to basically say it was all fantasy. Again, our lives are destined for more, and God tries to show us that more, and God tries to offer that more to us, and we've got to be people who want to believe that and want to be able to see that and want to be able to trust in that. Again, that reading from Isaiah and this reading from Luke tie in together with asking us, whom do we trust in? Whom do we put our fate in? Who do we put our lives in? Into whose hands do we put our lives? Because if they're not in God's hands, if they're not within the promises that God gives us, then they will amount to nothing. And God does not want us to have nothing. God wants us to have everything. And may the Lord give you his peace.